Hey, I'm Rob Brooks, and this is Michael Gregg from Rob Brooks Realty.
Hi.
Good afternoon. So, Michael Gregg is an expert at condos. He does a lot of studying on making sure that people are getting what they need in regards to condos. So, let's just open up the conversation. A lot of people have had experience with buying a house. Buying a condo is a different animal.
Absolutely.
What are the basic differences between house buying and condo buying?
Of course. So one of the biggest differences is ownership. When you buy a single family home, you normally own the house and you own the property that it's on.
Right,
However, with a condominium, it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
You only own the airspace. I know it seems kind of silly, but you only own the airspace within a condominium. You own between the walls and from floor to ceiling.
Right.
And then you also are part ownership of some common elements, which are typically your swimming pools, tennis courts, gyms, and things like that. So those you have an undivided share interest with all the other association members. So that's one difference.
I remember in my real estate school that it was described to me as you don't own land, you own an imaginary box in the sky.
Exactly.
And that imaginary box in the sky is where your condo happens to be with the walls and everything else.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Right.
And you know, when you purchase a condominium and you own the contents within the condominium, you know, insurance becomes an issue too. There's a master insurance policy which covers the policy for the association and a lot of the common areas.
Right.
But then in addition to that, an owner is responsible for purchasing insurance to cover the contents within their unit.
Right.
So a lot of people don't understand that, and they think that the master policy is good enough to cover the entire, you know, all the insurance for everything, and that's just not necessarily the case. So that's a big issue that a lot of people don't understand, and I always like to explain.
Yeah, it's really important because not only is there the content insurance, but also slip and fall kind of insurance is not covered by the association in your unit.
Absolutely, and flood insurance. Flood insurance is another issue. For those folks that decide to purchase on the ground level, there is usually a master flood policy that covers the condominium complex with the common areas, but it doesn't necessarily cover the contents of your unit. That's where it becomes an issue with prospective purchasers seeking out insurance agents and getting professional guidance as far as flood insurance goes on those lower level units.
Yeah. Okay, so let me pose this question to you. This is a common question for me when I'm working with a buyer for a condo. They say, oh, that condo fee is really high. It's whatever, $600 or whatever dollars per month. That means we definitely don't want to be in that condo, right?
Not necessarily. So one of the things when you purchase a condominium, you become inherently involved in the association. So you become an association member. And it's almost like buying a piece of a business. You're part of a corporation, and that corporation, you have shared costs.
Right.
And those costs are shared among all the different owners. So they're usually divided based on square footage. Usually the governing documents will indicate how the funds are allocated, but you'll know in advance what your requirements are going to be for the year. But you know, in our area, Rob, you know, it really kind of varies as to what the amounts can be. It can be anywhere from, you know, I've seen them low as $250 up to over $1,000 a month.
Right.
And one of the unique things about condominiums is they come in all shapes and sizes, and they fit just about every budget. So the assessments are going to be, you know, kind of run the gamut.
Right. And I noticed that sometimes the assessment, low assessment, sometimes mean that condo really doesn't have amenities. They don't have a pool, they don't have whatever, or even worse, that they have poor reserves. And if they don't have money to replace the roof and is getting aged to replace the roof,
absolutely,
there's about to be a huge assessment.
Absolutely. And in addition to the assessments, special assessments can also be something that a prospective purchaser might be liable for down the road. And just let me explain a little bit about special assessments. For example, if there's a hurricane and there's damage that the condominium, you know, sustains, and let's say that the insurance deductible is higher than the amount that's in the reserves, well, then that balance has to be shared among the condominium owners. and then that becomes what's called a special assessment.
Right.
So one of those little tricky things that you got to watch out for. And when you work with a realtor, you want to make sure that your realtor knows to ask if there are any special assessments in place, and if there are any special assessments that have been talked about within some of the board meetings.
Right. Okay, good. Is it important to be involved in the association, and are there some does it matter what kind of feelings are going on in the board meetings?
Well,
the association meetings?
Human nature always prevails, and you're part of it. Like I said, when you purchase a condominium, you're part of an association, a group, a small business, so you're going to have multiple personalities that come together.
Yeah.
So you inherently become a part of the association, which gives you certain rights to vote. You can vote on board of directors and elections. You can vote on financial issues. You can vote on rules and regulations that kind of govern the day-to-day operations. So and there's going to be some conflict, maybe there's going to be some varying opinions, but ultimately it's a democracy, and typically the majority rules. So it can be interesting, and there's all kinds of meetings that are held to keep buyers informed. There's regular meetings, there's board meetings, there's special meetings, there's emergency meetings. So those that want to know the intricacies of the operations of the condominium, they do have that opportunity.
Right. So I understand that there are some documents that are common upon a condo being sold that help inform the buyer.
Absolutely.
What are some of those document names, and what do they contain?
Sure. So every condominium, when a developer builds a condominium here in Florida, they file with the courts it's called a declaration of condominium. And that is essentially the governing documents that not only establish the condominium as an entity, but it also establishes the general rules and the guidelines of how the operations are going to unfold, how it's going to be managed. And Florida law has some very specific laws regarding how that operation is handled, but there is some flexibility within the different association management on how to do some things that the laws don't necessarily govern. There is some flexibility there. So the declaration of condominiums, when you do purchase a condominium, our contracts allow for the buyer to review those condominium contracts. And if there's anything in there that you do not like, you do have a rescission period. So pull back and say, you know what, I don't like that. There might be some special assessments that are pending, or there might be some particulars within the governing documents that you don't like that just really kind of turn you off. And work with your realtor, and your realtor will show you, work within your revision period.
And what is that period normally?
3 days.
3 days. Okay, so I'd say like 99% of the public doesn't know this.
Right.
That you can rescind a contract based on this clause that is required by the state of Florida, correct?
Right. And that's for resale. Now, newly built condominiums, you have a 15-day rescission right. I usually work with people who are buying resale, so I always explain to them, once we get all those documentations, and there's quite a few documents that come along with. It's not just one piece of paper. It's often, a lot of different pieces of paper. And once you review that, you have 3 days after you get the last paper. You have 3 days to review. And like I said, if you don't like it, you can always back out.
Cool. All right. So I know that you are good at condos up and down the Emerald Coast. And here behind us, these are the what?
These are the summer winds. The 3 towers you see here are very popular. As you can see, you've got some on the lower level, and then you've got some that go all the way to the top. So like I said, they really come in all shapes and sizes, and they just kind of run all the way down to Pensacola, and they run all the way down to Panama City Beach.
Right, yeah. So a lot of condos to choose from, a lot of locations and styles to choose from.
Absolutely.
Michael, you've been very informative because you are a very informed person. You make sure that you're that way because you're an expert. So is there anything else that you wanted to share maybe that I haven't asked you about?
One thing I'd like to talk a minute about is just financing.
Excellent. Yeah.
A lot of people think that the type of financing you get with a single family house can be used with condos, and that necessarily isn't the case.
There's been recent changes.
There has.
Financing.
In fact, you know, some of the legislation has really tied the hands of lenders in lending the type of money that they can. So that really kind of hurts investors, people that are looking for certain loans to purchase condominiums as investors. But there are some local lenders here that are very savvy with the operations of the condominiums and the dynamics that go behind the underwriting process. So reach out to me, reach out to Rob, and we can hook you up with some of those lenders, because that could really make or break the deal.
That's true. Y'all, thank you so much for watching. Of course, Michael Gregg, expert at condos, Rob at Rob Brooks Realty. Thank you for watching. This is Where We Live.
Thank you.